microphones come on, please? There we go. Thank you. All right, folks, if everybody's ready, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is our special city meeting agenda for a CIP workshop. Today is Wednesday, May 5th. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. And it is 3 p.m., so I'm going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Dynas?
Here.
Councilmember Carwin?
Here.
Councilmember Leesmeyer? Mayor Pro Tem Sobek?
Here.
Mayor Zimmerman?
And I'm here, thank you. And it is now time for our flag salute, and we have a guest here, Mr. Casson Klein, who's a friend of the city's, and I'd ask him if he would lead us in our flag salute.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Please place your hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, Mr. Klein. With that, we are on item 4.1. This is our revised capital improvement program. We did have a meeting recently where we went over our capital improvements, and today we're coming back just to kind of finalize that prior to our fiscal year budget coming up soon in the next month or so. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to City Manager, and if you'd be kind enough to introduce the staff.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and council members. As if you recall, we did have our first workshop where we overviewed some of the projects that we took last year, took down last year, some of the projects that are in design, and then hopefully today, some of the projects that we hope to accomplish next year, and also to present to you some projects that were added at the last city council meeting based on council consensus and input. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to our interim public works director, which will give us an overview of the projects and the second workshop. Thank you.
All right, if you could just hang on just one sec. What is it?
We cannot sign it.
Okay, we need a little help from IT on a couple of the sign-ins over here, please, if you don't mind. Mayor Pro Tem.
You're done? We should queue up some of those old school color bars for technical standby, technical difficulties.
Yeah. We have that, but it requires a password and it doesn't work. And IT folks, just to let you know, Councilman Leesmeyer is on the Zoom lobby, and he's asking if you can allow him access, and he'll join us. What's that?
From his limo.
Yeah. He's in the Learjet right now. All right. right, I think we can proceed ahead, right? Is everybody, Dean, were you able to sign in? Yes. Okay. Mr. Nix, floor is yours, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. I'm Jonathan Nix, Interim Public Works Director. With me, I have Carlos Geronimo, our Principal Engineer over at Capital Improvement. And IT, if we can get the PowerPoint up, please. Thank you very much. As Mr. Villa mentioned, we had a workshop on April 19th where we went over all of these items, did an overview of our capital improvement program. We reviewed all of our completed projects so far for fiscal year 2021, looked at all the projects we have in progress, and then also reviewed all the proposed projects for fiscal year 21-22 coming up. And then we also had a lively discussion with the City Council about other suggested projects. So today, too far. We'll do another brief overview of those projects we still have in progress that will continue into next fiscal year. And we'll also, again, review those proposed projects. And then what we're also going to do is review all the suggested projects from the City Council from the last workshop. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to go by each section of the CIP. We'll go by the traffic signals proposed, pavement management projects, facility projects, go by each category and look at what was previously proposed and then what was suggested by City Council. We'll have a discussion and get feedback from the City Council and get some consensus on which projects we want to continue to move forward with. Then after the workshop today, what we're going to do as staff is once we get direction from the City Council is if there is projects that you all agree have consensus to move forward, we'll look at what we have available in the budget and then bring that back during the budget workshop, which is in a couple weeks. So if there's a project, for example, where you say, we want to do this roadway project, maybe we can add some money for design towards it. So we'll take that. If it's consensus of the council, work back with the finance department, see what funding we have available, and then bring that back as a recommendation during the budget workshop.
Mr. Nix,
Yes, sir.
you had said that we will go through each different category, whether it's signals or pavement management or those kinds of things. At the end of each one, do you want council to be able to comment in that category before you move to the next category, or do you want us to hold our thoughts to the very end?
No, I think it'd probably be a better discussion for us to, as we're in that category,
Okay.
review each of the suggested projects, get that consensus from the City Council, then move on to the next category.
Thank you. Okay.
So just for the sake of the public, just to go over this again, the goals of our CIP is to plan for the city's long-term capital improvement projects, determine those financing requirements for those projects, and provide a means for the City Council to determine priorities and continuity in carrying them out, and identify projects for future years in the program that might be allocated funding in future capital budgets. So if there's projects that were suggested even at the last workshop or that come up today, if we're not able to fund it for next fiscal year, we can always look at funding them or making sure they're on our list for future years. So again, this is a summary of what we went over on April 19th. So there's currently 35 projects that are in progress. There's 10 that are under construction, and there's 2 studies. And we also have 23 projects that are under design in those different categories. So the staff, our CIP team, and all of our different departments will continue to work on these projects well into next fiscal year. And again, these are those proposed fiscal year 21-22 CIP projects that were presented during the last workshop. We have several transportation projects, and if you can see on there, a lot of these transportation projects are quite larger. There's an asterisk next to them. What we're proposing for next fiscal year is a contribution to keep those projects going. So these are multi-year projects so that you'll see the project priority, project name, then what we're proposing for funding for next fiscal year, and then estimated total project cost. And within your packets are detailed project worksheets for each of these projects. So it provides information on the location, what's being done, cost estimates for design, construction, all of that. So we have transportation projects, 1 traffic signal project, 2 pavement management projects, 2 street improvement projects, several facility projects, and a few projects for community services regarding parks and recreation upgrades, and then also, as presented last time, several requests for fleet for public works, equipment and vehicles. Are there any questions on these proposed projects?
No, I'll just say thank you for
making it clear that we're fully funding all of these, but making contributions towards them. And thanks for putting the total cost column in there as well. That's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. As we move forward, you will see these projects in those categories as we're going through each section. So definitely, again, as we're discussing those proposed projects and the suggested projects, we strike a balance on our priority levels. Definitely priority is ranked by the city council. The process is reviewed annually as we're doing today. And if there's any priority adjustments based on conditions or needs or anything that happened in the community, we can do that. And priority levels are intended to guide both the city council and the staff and the city manager on where we should allocate and invest our funding for these capital projects. We're definitely, when we're looking at priorities, considering risk, health and safety, the environment, any legal requirements or mandates that are obligated to the city. If the city council has any request, any of their master plans or any guiding documents that the city might have already implemented. And then if there's any existing infrastructure or conditions that might help or that might have changed where we need to make an improvement. And then also if we have any funding availability or grants that have recently come in that might move a project in priority. And if the project's ready to go, if we have it already designed and it's ready for construction. So definitely considering all those priorities as we're moving through these different sections. And then, as stated before, the different priority levels. Priority 1, something that's very urgent. We have to address it right away. Failure to address can have a negative impact, whether it be health or safety or a general welfare of the community. Priority 2, also important, but not as urgent as a priority 1. It's very important to address for those same reasons: safety, law enforcement, health, welfare, or the economic basis of the city. Priority 3 is a good project to do, provides a good enhancement for the community, but not at the same priority or urgency as priority 1 or priority 2. And usually a priority 4 project is something that we want to identify for something we're going to do in the future. And just for public's sake, we have the priority levels right there on those easels. So any questions before I move on the priority levels or how we decide or anything like that?
I have a request from staff.
Yes, ma'am.
When we are discussing each different department layouts here, would you, if we do bring up a project that we want move forward or up to one or what, would you please share with us if there's any background knowledge that we need to be aware of?
Absolutely. If there's any project on the list that you want a little more information on or a little more detail, and maybe it's not quite on the detail sheets, that's exactly why I have Mr. Geronimo here.
Okay, thank you.
So, as mentioned, we have our suggested project proposals from the first CIP workshop. So, as we're going through, we have this similar format for each section. So, we have these are the suggested transportation projects that City Council brought up during the last workshop. These are all pending City Council consensus. So, what I'm going to do is go over this table first, and just as a preview. Then we'll go into the larger table where it shows those projects plugged in there. So back to this one. One of the projects brought up was a study for areas for roundabout intersections. So this was brought up as an alternative to doing a traffic signal. If there's intersections that are being developed in the city or where a traffic signal might be needed, it was proposed to look at a roundabout as an alternative. So the proposed status is to not really have a project per se, but to review that every time we're looking at opportunities for traffic signals.
And let me just clarify that,
Yes,
since
ma'am.
I did ask for that, is if it can be done at a cheaper price, cheaper cost, but also keep the safety of that intersection.
Very good. And then continuing with transportation projects, we had Holland and Marietta intersection, looking at a realignment for that intersection there. Also brought up was Briggs Roads improvements for that area due to the new Liberty High School, looking at those impacts. Also regarding Briggs Road paving, also due to possible increased traffic due to the high school. And then another project that was brought up was to do an infrastructure study for the Romo Land area.
So again, on clarification, just for the Liberty High School, I know that is in the county, and the county's creating the impacts that are, will be impacted to the city of Menifee. And I just would like to ask staff to reach out to the county wherever they can to help with that area out there, because looking at the projects on here, there's some substantial amount of funds that need to be allocated for that area. So that would be a request on that.
Definitely. So these were the suggestions from the last workshop. We've identified all of these in the CIP schedule, and you guys have all the list, revised list printed in front of you. So we've identified them. They're available for any future years, or if we're able to talk to the county about funding allocations to get something done. So based on that, we also have, if you see at the top end of the schedule, some of those projects that were presented at the last workshop and recommended for funding: Holland Road Overpass, the Bradley Bridge over Salt Creek, McCall Boulevard I-215 interchange, Scott Road Bundy Canyon widening, Valley Boulevard widening, McCall Boulevard widening, and the Bailey Boulevard widening. So at this point, I'll open up for any council discussion if there's any changes you'd like to make to this list here.
Go ahead.
Frankly, I wanted to ask, just from a priority standpoint, it's, to me, it feels like a slippery slope for the council to say what is a priority and what's not a priority. I know that we might want to see certain things. I want to see certain things, but our first goal with this should be public safety. So from that perspective, I want to understand, which of these staff feels like is a higher priority because of a public safety issue, rather than a want, a feels good kind of thing.
Well, certainly you can see from the priority rankings on when you're looking at it left-hand side of the table, the ones that are recommended by staff for funding are mostly priority 1 projects. Actually, on this sheet, it's all priority 1 projects. Definitely for circulation, for public safety, for access, for all those reasons, we're recommending those. Definitely want to open it up, since there were suggestions from the city council at the last workshop. If there's any of these projects that were proposed that you'd like to see anything changed here, and we can have a discussion about that.
Could I make a suggestion? There's one down at the bottom that is the realignment of Holland Road where it meets Murrieta, and with Councilman Leesmeyer's point, which is well taken, that one has a lot of safety issues. There's no sidewalk, there's no pedestrian access. The whole thing is just very odd, and right now we're calling it a priority 4, which is the lowest priority, but I see that there's some merit to safety there, as the councilman suggested. So can we change that? Does the council feel in agreement that should maybe not be a 4, but moved up a little bit, call it a 3, and give it a little more priority? Any thoughts, council members?
I would like to hear staff's
Okay.
first reasoning, maybe why, because also looking at item number 13, that's the Briggs Road and Loretta, does that have to do with the high school, that one? So that's also a high ticket item. So I'd just like to know, is that something they're gonna work on getting funding from the county because of the impacts? But I'd like to hear from staff, why it's rated that.
Before I turn over to Carlos, I'll answer the easier question. The number 13, PWTR 13 Briggs Road, that is identifying what was on the previous slide, those
Okay.
Briggs Road items.
So, okay,
And
so
then I'll
that is a need, not a want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then I'll let Carlos take the harder question.
Okay. Oh, okay, this works. All right, so for Holland Road, Murrieta Road realignment, the intersection is currently all-way stop control. It's a split intersection. So it creates quite a bit of traffic issues. But the main issue with the realignment of that intersection is all of the environmental work that needs to be done, all of the right-of-way acquisition that needs to be done. in order to properly realign these intersections. There's a couple opportunities, a couple things that we could do, but most of them require a single point intersection in order to fix the current traffic issues and future traffic demands. And that requires quite a bit of planning on our part and right-of-way acquisition. Right now, we don't have the funds for this project. That's why it's in a lower priority. There's not a lot of accidents. Yes, there's no sidewalks. But we could do something in the interim, or if you would like, as you're suggesting, we can move it up and start trying to fund this project.
So what I would like to see is us keep an eye on this one, as we know it's a need. We know that our city population is growing, and I would like to keep an eye on if there is traffic incidents there, that maybe next year, when this comes back, we will have a report of that intersection and how safe it is, how safe it has been this last year. But I do believe it's something we need to keep on our radar.
Councilman Carwin's in the queue.
Thank you. While we're talking about that intersection, from a traffic flow standpoint, my experience driving my kids back and forth to Menifee Valley Middle School and Paloma for all those years has been that's more of a traffic flow issue rather than a safety issue. But along with that, one thing I don't see on this list is the intersection of Murrieta Road and La Piedra. So if you're coming north from Newport up Murrieta Road, traffic turns left on La Piedra to go to Evans Ranch Elementary School. And there's no room to safely pass the queued cars turning left, and cars drive off the road to go around. And that traffic stacks up because of cars coming south on Murrieta. It seems to be that is a safety issue waiting to happen because cars are flying down Murrieta, cars are turning left to go to school. It hasn't been a problem for the last year, maybe when this was done because schools were closed. But as schools, I mean, just from a safety standpoint, when my kids started driving that intersection, I was far more fearful for them than the Holland Road jog there, because at least there are stop signs. And I know that with Holland Road, property acquisition is probably going to be a major issue, considering who owns the properties over there. But I'd like to have that added to the list. I didn't, and I apologize for not bringing it up sooner, but it just dawned on me that it wasn't on here, that intersection. And I know Councilman Leesmeyer knows that intersection well. But I think from a from a public safety standpoint, I think we can do something with that sooner even than Holland.
Councilman Leesmeyer?
Yeah, I would definitely echo Councilmember Carwin's comments. There's a certain rural charm that goes with that kind of misaligned road. It keeps traffic slow because there are two stop signs. While realigning it would be ideal, we could have a nice signal and have a signalized intersection. My experience living on Murrieta Road, as the new signals have come in right there on Garbani and Craig, cars are screaming down that road now. Really? And the problem with that is it's more of a rural area. There's horses everywhere. There's people outside working in their yards. It's not like another busy intersection like Holland or like Hahn and Newport, where it's commercial and setbacks. Yeah. So to that, I mean, there's a benefit to having this misaligned road. I recognize that there's huge environmental issues and grading issues. There's a huge rock pile, a lot of challenges. But from a pedestrian standpoint, maybe what Carlos is suggesting is an interim fix, to maybe find a way to get some sidewalks, because there are people walking out there, and there's when school is in session, there's a bus stop right there on the corner. There's kids out there in the street riding their bikes. There's a lot of people out there. So maybe the interim is a good option while we investigate the long-term possibilities of the realignment. And just to piggyback, we definitely need at La Piedra. There are a lot of accidents there, even without school.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
So as you stated from the beginning of the meeting that we don't want to tell staff how to do their jobs and the priority. I would like to see staff, I mean, I don't want to add more. They need to get going with the budget process, right? They take note of our comments, and then let's keep an eye on the problems between accidents, pedestrian unsafety, and all that, and just add that to the element here, the list, and put it as something that we know that we want them to look at and to keep an eye on. So that we don't
I will
change
follow
the
your lead.
priority. So that we don't change the priority at this meeting.
Well, that project's already at a 4,
Right.
so no one's asking for it to come up, I don't think.
I did. I asked the question, should that become a 3 or a 2? And then we went to, we need to hear from staff and all that kind of stuff. So if it gets no traction, if people say no, leave it a 4, we'll leave it a 4. It's whatever.
And I know you're connected with Eagle Ridge Church a little bit. So are you getting any feedback from the people that frequent that church? I mean, is that because it's
More from residents,
Okay, so it's
especially
residents.
the equestrians that are saying it's really dangerous there, and
Yeah.
so.
I think the lack of shoulder there rather than the alignment. I mean, frankly, I'd love to see a bike lane all the way from Newport all the way up to Scott Road because of the school traffic, which would accommodate equestrian as well. You know, you could build that out with an equestrian trail suitable, but that's an entirely different project than we're talking about here.
Okay, so the original question was, should we change that second to last one to a 3? If people are saying, no, leave it a 4, we'll leave it a 4.
But I think this year, let's monitor it. That's what I'd like to ask.
All right.
I'd like to ask that we monitor that area.
Any other council discussion about the priorities that are on the screen we see in front of us?
Just my question is that La Piedra thing, is that something that I would bring as a motion to add to the list, or is that for next year's meeting? How do we address that?
If I may, the Murrieta La Piedra is actually a traffic signal project. It's already on the other list that's coming up.
I thought I saw it.
Somewhere. I knew it's somewhere.
It's there already.
There's no way we missed that. Okay.
Okay.
Tell me that in the beginning so I don't talk that much.
I was
I'll
trying.
save it
I hit
for
the
later.
I hit the request to speak. I'm sorry.
You did? I didn't see it. Sorry. Jonathan, what happens when you hit the request to speak?
Let me try again.
Do it. Nothing.
Oh, okay.
Well,
It flashes, but there's no names.
I'll raise my
I
hand
thought it was
next time.
Councilman Leesmeyer saying, "Hey, man, I'm in the queue." All right, floor is yours. Take it away.
I think the mayor asked the question: is there council consensus with this list here, or are there any other discussion or changes on this?
I
You
say
got-
let's move forward.
All right, sounds like
Okay.
we got thumbs ups from everybody.
Very good. Okay, so the next section is the traffic signals. During the last workshop, there was a request to review the previously proposed need for a traffic signal at McCall and Grosse Point. Myself and Mr. Geronimo went back with the traffic team and looked at this intersection. So there was a fatality at this intersection around 2016 timeframe. Just for everyone's sake, this intersection is on McCall. It's right between Murrieta and Bradley. Grosse Point is kind of at the edge of the North Golf Course, where the edge of the island is the northern part of the island of the golf course. So prior to 2016, it was an unprotected crosswalk, no stop signs, anything like that. So because of that fatality, there was a request from the public and city council to put a traffic signal in there. At the time, the city didn't have the funds or resources to do that. So the city did improve the intersection to a 4-way stop with enlarged stop signs and that have flashers on there. So that was around the 2016 timeframe. So myself, Mr. Geronimo, circled back with the traffic team to look at the data from 2016 to now. And it looks like those measures that were implemented in 2016 have worked. There is only 2 minor fender benders that happened since that time. So based on that additional data and that additional review, we're recommending to keep that on the schedule as a proposed future traffic signal, but we lower the priority since the measures that are in place are working. So also brought up during the last workshop was to look at or consider a traffic signal at the entrance of MSJC, right where Antelope Road is. And then also was brought up to have a traffic signal at Briggs Road and Garbani. So we've added those two, or those two were already on the list for traffic signals. There you go. And then as you can see, we removed the funding or unallocated the funding from Grosse Pointe. So that 600,000 that was allocated to Grosse Pointe is available. And just to clarify, that's a developer impact fee circulation funding. So we recommend that we continue to use it for a traffic signal project, not another project.
Okay, very good. So council members, how do we feel? We're being told that the McCall Grosse Pointe funds can be applied to one of the other signals. We have any thoughts, comments? Go.
That's District 1, so maybe I'll let Robert Carwin go first.
Thank you. Yeah, well, the review of that intersection was my doing because I'm familiar with it, and I know that the measures the city has taken, and they have shown to be effective. And I don't think that that area of the city would benefit from a traffic signal there. I think it would actually inhibit traffic there. So I agree with reallocating those funds, and if it becomes a problem in the future, to review it again. But I don't see the need for those funds to be allocated for that signal. Same goes for, at this point, number 8, which is Bradley Road and Cherry Hills. I rarely see more than 2 cars stopped in any direction at that intersection as well. I think, there's a library there and a fire station there. I think the fire station takes care of itself. Maybe when something is built on that corner and it's busier, but at this point, allocating those funds to there. The one I would like to see moved up and then I'll be done with all my comments, is number 10. In light Bradley Road and Pebble Beach. I literally came through that intersection today, coming out of Pebble Beach, trying to get onto Bradley Road, and it's quite difficult because the nearest signal is for Salt Creek Trail. So if nobody's crossing on the trail, nobody stops at that signal. This would be for vehicle traffic, and trying to come out of that neighborhood is incredibly difficult with the high degree of traffic, and there's just no place for a break anywhere along that road. So I'd like to reduce the priority for McCall and Grosse Pointe and Bradley and Cherry Hills, and not a 1, but maybe up to a 2 for Bradley Road and Pebble Beach. That's my feelings for the ones that are involving in District 1. Thank you.
Council members, do we agree with that? I do.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. All right, Councilman Leesmeyer.
On this one, I'm asking the question of staff, on all of these items, as Councilmember Carwin stated, there's one that maybe doesn't need it, there's others that maybe do. Have we analyzed these intersections for warrants? Do they warrant a traffic signal, or does it warrant a stop sign? I don't want to just throw signals up for sake of putting signals everywhere.
Yes, these intersections have been.
I think you're on.
These intersections have been analyzed for traffic warrants and based on accident data. Hello?
There we go.
I had to push it a bit longer, I think. So yeah, this intersection have been analyzed for based on traffic data, and have been analyzed for warrants, traffic warrants as well. As you know, we can't just put a traffic signal if it's not warranted. So we have to go through a process to make sure that traffic signal is warranted at that intersection, and that takes accident data, whether it's pedestrian or vehicle accidents, and also line of sight issues and deficiencies in geometries, etc. So all those intersections have been analyzed for that, and that's why they're on the list. And we continue to monitor with our traffic signal, traffic engineering department, to see what accidents or what the trend is in accidents every year, and based on that, we kind of reprioritize based on what happens during that year. In terms of accidents, maybe there's a development that puts more traffic at that intersection, so there's maybe more accidents, who knows. But we continue to monitor all these intersections.
Okay. And then to answer your question, yeah, I would definitely agree to reallocate that money, but lean on staff to figure out where. to assess which one it has the highest needs. You know, obviously we could say, you know, anything maybe near a school, maybe because of pedestrians has the highest need. I don't know, but I would personally lean on staff.
All right, Councilman Dynas?
Thank you. On our list is the traffic signal at the entrance of MSJC. I think he has it as a priority 1. I think that's pretty important. I mean, school's going to be opening up pretty soon. The traffic's going to be there. That road is, the traffic flows there pretty quick. And I would think would benefit the entire city because all of our residents have the ability to go to the school. It serves all of our residents, not just, you know, certain district or anything like that. So, yeah, I would support having that added to the list to be funded for this year. It'd be nice to get it done before the college opens up and they start classes in person again.
Or the new stadium that's being built and the STEM building and all of those things, that we can just imagine the increase in traffic that's there. So I appreciate your suggestion, Councilman Dynas, and I agree with that 100%.
Are we sub-prioritizing within the ones?
Actually, we're going to try to pick one to replace the Grosse Point. So basically, we're hoping today to be able to select one of these and say that is this year's priority. We had 2 signals we were going to do this year. At this point, we're doing 2, and we've identified Menifee and Garbani as one of them. And now we're replacing the Grosse Point with one of these. And the question is which one should we do? And Councilman Dynas recommended the Antelope MSJC entrance, and I agree with that. So that's kind of where we're at.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Sobek.
Yes, thank you. So we've had a little conversation about the Antelope and MSJC. Can you remind me if the college is contributing to a light there?
We actually just had a discussion with Dr. Schultz yesterday regarding that because that was brought up during the last workshop. They've indicated that they are willing to contribute, but they have to go through their process, go to their board, so we don't have a number yet of how much they're willing to contribute. But they said they're you know, a very good partner with the city, and they would be willing to contribute, and he'd be willing to take that to his board.
Okay. And so what I see on this list, though, the traffic signal project listing, I only see one traffic signal being funded in this category, and that would be Menifee and Garbani. The estimated costs, that money's not there, correct?
Yes, the only funds recommended at this point is that proposed fiscal year 21-22. So the only one that's proposed at this point is the 1.140
Yes. Okay.
for Menifee and Garbani.
All right. And so if we were to move MSJC into that second line, there's no funding right now for it. Is that correct?
There is I have the note on the bottom. I should maybe bolded it. So originally during the first workshop, there was a recommendation to fund $600,000 for McCall and Grosse Point. And as mentioned earlier, after reviewing that, we're recommending not to move forward with that because the stop sign.
So there is 600,000.
There is 600,000.
Okay. So we could move that. So I am aware that Antelope and MSJC has experienced some many traffic collisions. It is a school. I feel like that is a high priority. So I would agree with my colleagues on that one. I have a question on the Briggs Road in Garbani. Again, there's another school. We're going to be impacted by the new Liberty High School. And so I see that's a 3. And I'm wondering if we might want to move, if staff would think that needs to be evaluated or watched this year as the new school opens, and then work in the meantime with the county to see if we can get some assistance there for that one. So that would be just my thoughts on item number 18.
So as definitely as Mr. Geronimo already stated, we'll definitely monitor all of these proposed intersections and look at those impacts. And we all know that high school is going in. It's supposedly slated to open very soon. So we'll look at the impact of that.
Yeah, because that one, there will be a lot of parents that will be at city council meeting. I just can envision that. We don't know what it's gonna be like right now. So, okay, those were my comments.
All right, and so let me just try to wrap this up. If I remember right, and I pulled up yesterday and showed Mr. Nix 2 years ago, the MSJC entrance at Antelope was added to the list as a priority too. Last year, we took a lot of discussion, we took public comments on that as well, and it was moved up to a priority 1. So this has been a kind of a top priority for a couple of years now, especially last year. And so, and I have heard from some of my colleagues that that would be a fundable project. So, Jonathan, what do we need to do to say that this is a project we will make as a, not just funded, but we're going to actually physically carry it out?
Definitely just looking, it seems like there's consensus from the council to allocate that 600,000 that's available to that project.
Okay.
If that's what we're hearing, then that's what we'll do and bring back during the budget workshop.
Okay, and Councilman Dinas?
Yeah, I know we're allocating 600,000 to another project, but as Councilmember Carwin brought up, that he had requested a change in one of the projects in his district, was it Bradley and Pebble Beach? He mentioned it, but it fell to the wayside. We haven't discussed that. And I think even though we're just talking about future, I think it's important that we have the priority set now, so as funds become available throughout the year, we're not going through this entire process again, but we can just start taking the 1s, 2s, and 3s and work our way down. So I would support moving that up to a number 2 if that was appropriate according to, by the staff then.
Thank you for that support.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. Everybody else okay?
Yep.
No.
Yep, and I do see Marietta Road and La Piedra is a priority 1 that we talked about previously.
That priority 1 will be my wife's Mother's Day present.
Marietta Road.
Yes.
Why am I not seeing? Oh, there it is. It's halfway
11.
down. Okay.
Yep.
Good. Mr. Nix, anything else you need from us on this category?
No, I think we're all good on traffic signals.
All right, thank you.
So, okay, so for street improvement projects, at the last workshop suggested review of citywide neighborhoods for paving projects and needs, and very fortunately, we're actually already working on that. So we're have a study that was already funded for this fiscal year to update our pavement management program. We're wrapping that up now. Our consultants should be finishing that in the next couple of months, and we're going to provide a separate workshop to the city council probably by the fall, if not earlier, maybe late summer, to update the city council on all the pavement conditions citywide and make recommendations on which streets need to be done with current conditions. As Mr. Geronimo mentioned, the last time we did comprehensive PMP was in 2016, and then in 2018 we updated just arterials. So this would be another full comprehensive look at all the streets in our city. So that's already underway. And then what was also brought up was to study the traffic on Newport Road going east out of town from Antelope to Briggs, considering all the increased traffic flow that's coming in.
So on a clarification on that.
Yes, ma'am.
I think we should wait until the Holland Road overpass is completed.
So we did identify this project on the CIP, and we can make a note on that. So we do have it there, and we can make a note on the project to wait on that one until Holland Road is completed.
Okay, that's the one that's down at the bottom.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that only makes sense. I wanted it on there, but
Yeah.
I think timing's important.
Okay.
Is there any more discussion? Definitely want to give the council time to review this list for street improvements.
So I just wanted to, if you could remind me, HSIP is federal grant designated project, correct?
Yes, so those are projects that are eligible for federal grants. Doesn't mean we have to use federal grants. If we have some local funds take care of the projects, we can do that.
And ATP?
Bless you. Those are projects that were identified through our alternative transportation program when we went through that whole cycle, and Mr. Geronimo provided that report. So those are projects that were identified through that process, and so they'd be also eligible for additional federal funding, if I'm getting that right.
Okay. Thank you.
Before we move on, I have a couple in the queue. Councilman Carwin.
The first one on the list is the Normandy Road improvements. That refers to the shoulder widening on the north side of Normandy Road.
Yes.
And so, am I reading this correctly, that that's ready to go?
Mr. Geronimo?
Hello, okay, I gotta make sure. So, it is proposed to be funded. It hasn't been designed yet, but with the funds, if you're okay with this, we were proposing, then we can go ahead and start designing the project for construction of next year.
Thank you.
And Councilman Leesmeyer.
While I think that's a fantastic project, I'm just asking the question. Councilmember Conrad only brought this up last month. How does it make it to number one and funded this year?
Influence.
So it was already part of our proposed projects, I believe. We were always thinking about, funding this project before our last workshop. So it was already in there, but
Okay.
Kind of reiterated the importance of this project.
Got it, okay. Just the perception wasn't very clean.
Mayor Pro,
Number
sorry.
8, the Newport Road raised medians. I am aware of a project at Newport and Evans, and this was born out of a discussion that I had with the city manager, requiring that developer to put in those medians with that project. So to the extent possible, I'd like to make sure that we secure development funds for that improvement, because that's what's in the general plan. So I don't know how you do that when you're working with a grant. If you're gonna have to figure out a credit agreement with him, or I don't know.
Right, so as Mr. Nick stated, so these are eligible for federal grants, but we don't have to use federal grants. I think last workshop you mentioned that we could maybe put money towards the design of the project so it's ready to go when we have, when there's opportunities for federal funding or other funding. We can certainly do that. We can certainly put some money towards the design of the race median. And I'm sure our land development is working towards a developer agreement of some sort for them to contribute towards the race median.
Mr. Villa, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, just really quick. We did have that conversation, and we looked into it, and we did have a fatal accident not too long ago. And one of the things that we're anticipating the private project to be built, and if that's the case, then we're going to work with the developer to make sure that gets built as part of that development, and hopefully we can complete the gaps. But if the project goes away and never comes back for whatever reason, then we're scheduling this one so that we can do the whole thing in the event that project never materializes. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Sobek.
Yeah, that was the same item. I just wanted some clarification on, and I think you just explained it. That's what I was concerned, is if a private partnership was going to develop some of it, it wasn't going to be all the way from Bradley to Marietta, the whole thing.
Right.
Now, it is a priority 1, and but we're not putting any funding towards it this year.
So we're not proposing any funding this year, but we are going to apply for grants because they're eligible for safety grants, and we're hopeful that we can get the grants and get started on it.
Okay, thank you.
And I think this applies to all of them. If there's other money out there, Safe Routes to School or any of those grants we can apply for, of course, we would definitely want to do that and try and save our local taxpayers some money. So, yeah, however we get to the finish line the fastest. Any other comments on the street improvement project category? All right, Jonathan, we can move on.
Okay. Next, we'll look at pavement management projects. So one of the projects that was brought up was looking at a median at Menifee Road north of Newport. So that's just going north just past the fire station's exit onto Menifee Road. So we're already working on a road surfacing project on Menifee Road. So we're actually proposing just to add that median into the scope of that project. So we already have that funded there. So I think we can put that project into that one since we already had it scheduled. Also, I want to provide an update here. We didn't actually have this one on the schedule for during the last workshop because actually we did have it on the last workshop, the Peacock Community Resurfacing. We had it under projects in design for fiscal year 2021. During the regular city council meeting today, we're recommending additional CDBG funding for this project. So we've looked at our CDBG allocations. This is an area that is CDBG eligible, so there's a staff report later tonight to recommend funding for that project. So we have that on the schedule as well, and I have a note on there for that.
For the full amount,
It's-
5.5?
It's for that project for Peacock Community is it's recommending another 218,000. So we have complete construction funding for the project.
Remind me, where is Peacock Community?
It's,
Chambers.
yeah.
Chambers, if
Marietta.
you're going up Marietta Road,
Yeah.
just past Sun City, you turn left on Chambers, you go west. And then right there on the left-hand side, after about a quarter mile, there's a neighborhood that's been there since the late 80s.
After that dirt lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Then also brought up in the Sun City area, the neighborhood just east of Bradley and from Potomac on the south up to El Rancho on the north, that neighborhood there. Additionally brought up was Lake Ridge Estates and the Willows neighborhood, both in the Menifee Lakes. And then also brought up was Menifee Road from Simpson to the train tracks. So again, all those projects identified in the CIP, identified on the list, and then want to open up any discussion with the city council about possibly allocating funding or looking at these projects any further.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. And Mayor Pro Tem Sobek is first in the list.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, a little history back when we had our past city engineer, he had shared with me that they were working on the Menifee Lakes Master Association neighborhood, the original 10 developments, that's where they were at. And he was moving west to east. That's why I talked about the Lake Ridge Estates and the Willows, but I drove out there in the past week and realized the Brigata neighborhood has been missed, and it's next to the Willows. I was looking at them as one neighborhood, but it's actually two. In the Willows neighborhood, there was some work that had been started, I believe 5 or 6 years ago, where they went in and did a crack and seal, and it looks like a jigsaw puzzle. They only did half of the main street, and so the rest has been touched. All of those neighborhoods were built in the late 80s. The Lake Ridge Estates, I'm getting a lot of pressure from those residents. That is a higher end neighborhood of 15,000 to 20,000 square foot lots. And I have driven that neighborhood and checked it out. And I would say they're all equally in bad condition between the Willows, the Brigata, and Lake Ridge Estates. But I just want to go back to the original plan. They were moving east, and now it's dropped down on the list. And so looking at Menifee Road and the improvements, when I went out there and I looked at it, I was like, why are we only going to Camino Cristo? The missing link started at Aldergate. So Aldergate to Simpson is all newer blacktop. The older blacktop on Menifee Road goes all the way to Aldergate. And so my question tonight, and I don't know if it's possible even, I'm relying on staff, could the project on Menifee Road be phased, where it goes from Holland to Newport, and then the second phase goes from Newport to Aldergate instead of just Camino Cristo, and maybe do that the following year? That way, it would maybe alleviate some funds that we might be able to get the Lake Ridge Estates neighborhood, which I'm getting a lot of pressure on. So it's just some things I thought about. I just want to share with you what I've been thinking. I could be totally off with this, so I just would like some feedback. So we do need to add, though, the Brigada to the bottom of the list or somewhere, so.
Okay, as Jonathan Hicks was stated earlier, the PMP program, it's being reevaluated comprehensively in the entire city. And we will be bringing back that to you later this year. And they'll have a list of projects and recommendations, and we can do the same exercise we're doing now for those projects. I don't know how different the conditions are from 2016 till now. I'm sure they're worse, because things deteriorate. But other neighborhoods are also in the same, deterioration path. So we'll have to evaluate the city as a whole and determine where those neighborhoods fall in the list. But we'll be bringing that to you in the future. And as far as the Menifee Road, yes, we have a section of Menifee Road missing from Newport to the new, I think it's Aldergate. So we'll add that to the list.
Yeah, or just instead of Camino Cristo, it should go to Aldergate and then add Brigada. And so I look forward to your report later on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Geronimo, when did you say the PMP is going to be done?
So they're working on it. They'll complete it. They'll complete all of their surveys around June. So we'll have a list sometime in June, July.
Okay.
So, and then we'll have to review that list, and we'll have to work with the consultant to see what level of funding we can provide realistically towards PMP projects, and based on that, they'll give out recommendations for the next 6-7 years.
I have a feeling it's going to identify a few additional locations that aren't even on this list. So,
And that depends on our level of funding towards the
Yeah.
program. Right?
yeah, okay. Councilman Carwin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are two projects I want to talk about in tandem, which is PMP 2, the neighborhood north of McCall and east of Sun City Boulevard, and number 6, which is the neighborhood east of Bradley, Potomac to El Rancho. I drove through both of those neighborhoods. The neighborhood north of McCall and east of Sun City Boulevard, that $800,000, frankly, seems kind of cosmetic for the roads compared to the condition in that other neighborhood, Potomac to El Rancho, which are just a disaster. We drove through there during Menifee Better Together, and there are 3-inch crevices running across the entire street throughout the neighborhood. Now, I see that one is $800,000 and the other is $5.5 million, and I wouldn't suggest swapping them out as an even swap. I don't know what the budget it looks like for that. But what I would like to do is reprioritize those, switch them in order, 2 and 1, and allot the same $800,000, whatever $800,000 worth of repairs we can do. It doesn't have to be every street in the neighborhood. I know specifically, I drove through there right before I came here. There's a street that runs parallel to Bradley called Lake Forest Drive, which splits the neighborhood kind of in half. And from Lake Forest to Bradley, I know that Potomac, Carmel, and Pebble Beach are in particularly bad condition. We could split it up on the streets that need to get done to utilize the same funding and then circle back on it as budget is coming up. I would like to see that switched out, and I would leave it to staff to assess which of the roads in that neighborhood are most in need of the repair. But that would be my request. And like I said, I want to make sure everybody understands I'm not asking to switch out an $800 for a $5.5 million project. Just the equivalent budget, just to reprioritize the neighborhoods, because that one is an actual, I think, a concern safety-wise.
All right, good point. council members, do we have anything else on the PMP category?
Do we need to request that? Do we need to make a motion to do that, or is that something that what happens now that I've said that?
Yeah, so let's just stay with the way we've been doing it. So council members, do we all agree that maybe we can do some reallocating as Councilman Carwin suggested, and even if it's just a phase to match that like for like dollars?
Did I misunderstand that the Potomac and Rancho, are they using CDBG grant money? Did I write that under the wrong one?
No, the Peacock community is
Peacock
the
at the
one
bottom.
recommended for CDBG.
Okay, Peacock, thank you.
So I would support it. I think.
Thank you.
It does, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll, based on the council direction, we'll change PMP 06 to priority 1, and then we'll also study that to see if we could, instead of doing one large project for the whole neighborhood, if we could do it in sections. And it's good timing. We'll do that as part of the PMP update.
Thank you.
And also to clarify, was the request also to move the PMP 02 and actually they're both PMP 02, that's a typo, the neighborhood north of McCall and east of Sun City Boulevard and Lazy Creek community down to a 2? Was that part of the request? Just to
Yes, that's part of the request in order to make it clearer on the priority list.
And there's
Everybody-
council consensus on.
Everybody agrees with that? Those two become 2s?
Okay,
All right,
very good.
thank you.
Any more discussion on pavement management? Just want to make sure we addressed all the council questions. Okay, very good.
I think we're there.
Drainage project, there was one drainage project brought up off of Ethanak and Byers. So we identified that project within our drainage project schedule. We actually do not have any drainage projects proposed for budgeting, but we have that project on there. Initial look at it, it is quite an expensive project. There's very low percentage sloping that's causing that water to move, and it's about 1,000 feet or so to get that to drain to line A off of Ethanak. So that's just our initial evaluation of that. So we do have it identified there.
Okay, and we're not funding anything this year in this category.
So we can take another look at what we can fund. We'll start with probably the first one, maybe Richmond Road, or we have some diff money, about $300,000 for storm drain that we can maybe try to fund or start funding one of these projects.
Okay. Do you need anything from us on that, Carlos, or are we just saying you know what there is available and as it comes up to program it in accordance to priority? Does that sound right? Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
We can do that. Okay. Also proposed during the last workshop was to create a new category, look at new street lighting projects, in particularly rural areas. So we identified initially 4 areas to look at. Looking at the Romoland area, Quail Valley, Vista Way and Casa Bonita Drive area, and then also Menifee Road, but in the southern part, Scott Road in the Garbani Road area. So we have some just initial estimates on here, and as funding becomes available, we can look at these a little further.
Okay. And I think we had talked about if there's a way of doing it with a pilot program that uses solar and LED lighting and that sort of thing, let's try it. Maybe we pick one of these and see if it's something that financially feasible and sustainable. I have Councilman Matt Leesmeyer in the queue.
It's a tongue twister.
Sorry.
And I just want to remind you that I had conversations with Jeremy Goldman about adding mast arms to existing power poles. They said that they would do that for free. Now I'm saying it publicly, he probably won't. But it's an option. The power's on the pole, and he said that they do it all the time. So if there are rural areas that we could do a light, we don't need to maybe run all the crazy infrastructure for a new pole. We can just piggyback on an existing power pole. There might be options to look at some of the dangerous intersections sooner rather than later and just, connect some people and get a pole on there.
We'll definitely explore that. Thank you.
That's a good point. All right, I think that takes us to the end of this category.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
For public facility projects, there was a comment that we propose doing above ground fuel station to help fuel our fleet, especially our police fleet. So that is proposed for funding for fiscal year 21-22. So there was a comment suggestion to, as we go through that pilot project for next fiscal year, to definitely explore additional fuel stations. Hopefully we have some success with that first one. So we noted that on the project worksheet that we'll be looking at that and looking at other locations for that. Then also commented was we have on the schedule already to start working towards building a new fire station number 5 on the west side of town. So we've identified a project that as we transition out of old fire station 5 to renovate that for future use, whether it be a police substation or some kind of community facility. So we've identified that project.
Great.
So, and then just as a reminder, those were the projects that were proposed for funding for next fiscal year.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Sobek is in the queue.
Thank you, Mayor. So today on the fuel station, I saw one on the east side of the freeway being built right now down by Eastern Municipal Water District, and I don't know what it is and who's building it. So there's someone to look at there. Might be something that we can piggyback on in case there was an emergency.
Bryce, write that down.
So on the American Recovery
Yes.
Act, I understand we're going to be able to use that for public safety, some of it. And on here, we have the fuel station at $750,000, the police station parking lot upgrades $390,000, the police station upgrades at $250,000. That comes to 1.390. And I was wondering, since we're going to have that American Recovery Act, is there any way that some of that could be used for these public safety projects where we free up these funds?
So we are about 70% sure that we could use it for public safety purposes, first responder type of things. But the Treasury Department has not given us definite language on the use of the funds. So what we're doing is we're anticipating receipt of the funds, but we're not intending to allocate that money just yet, just in case it's not eligible.
Mm-hmm.
But in the future, when they do develop the guidelines and we check the boxes, we can come back, with a budget amendment resolution to switch out some of those monies and then maybe free up some of this money to do something else.
Okay, so I mean, do we know when we're going to get that information from the government? I would hate for us to start on a $750,000 project, finding that we could have used those funds and then we've started a project. So I just want to be smart about the taxpayers' money.
They are anticipating on releasing the guidelines on the 11th. I believe it's the 11th of
June?
this month, May.
Okay.
However, it will still have to go through reviewing and evaluating, and it's not certain that they're going to come out that day. So we're hopeful, and if we get that guidance in time, we could even possibly incorporate it into the budget process, making the change. But I know part of what we communicated recently to council is that we've extended the workshop even with hopes that we can get that guidance before the workshop.
Okay. All right, so that would be my ask, is that if at all we can do that, to free up those funds and use those somewhere else, that would be something that I would request.
Definitely. I just want to throw something out there for all the council members, and we're not adding it to the list because I think it's too soon to put it on a list, but it has to do with the potential for a community center in the Menifee Lakes area next to the library that's almost built. So there's a possibility. Is there a slide coming up on that?
It's on the community services.
Oh, okay.
although
So
it's
I'll
a
wait
faci-
for that.
Yeah, it's on that.
I didn't know that was
Sorry,
there.
yeah.
Sorry, John. All right, we'll wait. Anything else on this category? I do see Councilman Leesmeyer.
I did have a question. I'm struggling to remember. We talked about purchasing another medic patrol vehicle. Where is that in this world? And I'm asking because I see the interior improvements at 68 as a level 3, and if you have a medic patrol coming, then we don't have anywhere to put it. And I don't see Alan. Alan's there.
I thought it was going to Station 76,
76 has one.
not a medic.
I don't know that it's been decided. I thought that's why they were doing the improvements here.
Yeah, I can give you the brief information that I know, which is we are working towards actually placing the truck on order.
Okay.
It is, we have the basic build breakdown for it, and it has been budgeted in a previous budget, so we'll place it on order. And I don't unfortunately have a specific time frame, but we're working towards that.
Okay, so it's not like it's gonna come this year and we're not gonna know where to put it.
Yeah,
Probably
and that is part of our assessment of our fire services. Where is the best place to put it to provide the maximum service for the community?
Right. Okay.
Can you clarify medic patrol? I thought we only had one at Station 7. We don't have
Cor-
one at 76, do we?
We do not have one
Yeah,
at
I
76.
thought I had read that that's where it was going to go previous, so.
Yeah, we
that
haven't
was-
come to a
and
final
then another
conclusion
one
on
was
that.
going to be needed at 68 eventually.
I think that's what he's saying. They're doing a needs assessment to figure out the best place.
So that's what I just remember from the past year reports.
Okay.
I think we're at the end of that category, John.
Okay, very good. Move forward on these ones for facilities. And then suggested community service projects, already identified, but definitely emphasized the need for regional multi-use sports park at Evans. As already approved by council, we have underway developing the south 6 acres of those parcels to have a new pump track there. And there's a remaining 20 acres that have already been identified in the master plan for a future community park, multi-use park with sports definitely in mind, community center, pool, that kind of thing. Also, 2 comments on parking for Salt Creek Trail, 2 different locations, looking at the easterly side at Antelope Road and looking at the westerly side at Normandy Road. So we've identified those projects in the schedule. So we have those there, and then we have the proposed projects for community services. So opening it up to the city council if there's additional requests for allocations for any of these projects.
Okay, let's start with Councilman Carwin.
I was waiting for you to jump in. You got it? Okay, I'll defer to Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, well,
I yield my time to the Mayor Pro Tem.
well.
I've always
thank
wanted
you.
to say that.
Well, I would appreciate your comments on this as well. So on this page, we see the Evans Park design and construction. And on the previous page, we did have, was it that previous page? We did have a recreation, trying to see where it's at now. A recreation facility. Now I can't find it. But we have it under the facilities. I think it was the previous one that we do have like a multi recreation center.
Oh, yeah, if I can clarify,
So-
under public facilities, that one, F-004, it's for our park and facility maintenance team. So those are the
So
trailers.
that's different.
Yeah, trailers behind Fire Station 7 to renovate.
So, the few things that we do hear out in Menifee right now, I hear there's nothing to do. There's road improvements and the movie theater. So those are 3 main things that I'm hearing. And just knowing that I brought this up at the last meeting about a really fabulous park where we need to create that space here. We need things for our residents to do here. We're over at 100,000 people. We need things for our youth, our children, our adults. And I just would really, with the heat that we experience sometimes 6 months out of the year, that we really look at including in that Evans Park design, construction, a regional park with all the amenities that we would want to have here. And I'm sure it's going to be a wish list, but I would like it to be a priority on the Community Services Department project listing. Was that Robert Carwin? Is there anything you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, I think identifying a location for an indoor multi-use facility for basketball, volleyball, et cetera, something that it would mirror what they have over at Wheatfield Park at the building there, but something on a larger scale that we own and operate and maintain would be a community services project that would be, I think, number one on everybody's wish list with kids in town or even adults who are looking for activity. So I don't know if that can be integrated with the Evans Park design and construction, because that, if we have space there, I don't know where we have space for something like that. But on this list somewhere, I'd like to see that identified for an indoor activity center that could be converted and used as a community center for non-sports purposes.
If I may add, one of the directions from the City Council that was previously provided during the strategic initiatives was to relook at the master plan, do a refresh of that. So we are working towards that within the next budget, not to redo the whole master plan, but to provide the City Council an update of what we've done over the last 5 years with the master plan. And also, as we go through that process, do a refresh of that Evans Park design concept that was provided before. There was some of those elements, indoor community building, a pool, a sports park, so we can look at that and see if that is the most appropriate place for a facility like that as we bring that forward. And also, just on side note, for our budget goals, so spoiler alert, as we come forward with the budget workshop, one of the goals for community services is definitely to utilize a lot of the facilities that already exist in the community, a lot of the gym spaces and things like that that exist at the schools, and develop formal MOUs with them to be able to use those. I know Paris Union has expressed some interest in that, especially with the new developments that they have at their high schools. You know, we're talking to MSJC about using that future stadium for community events, so that is one of the overarching goals that Community Services has.
That's great. Hey, Jonathan, can you answer a question? The third one down, Lazy Creek Rec Center. I mean, we're doing that now, right? Does that need?
Yes, that's fully funded.
Okay, so that'll come off the list next year.
Yes.
Some of the other ones that are a little farther down, parking lot resurfacing, is that just at various parks, or do we have a location, a certain park that's being done at?
That one in particular is for Lazy Creek. So once we complete the construction, then we're going to go in and resurface the parking lot.
Okay, that's Lazy Creek as well. All right. Yeah, and how about some of the other ones, the one below that park amenity, is that also Lazy Creek?
No, that's a few other parks. Actually, Mr. Howe, if you can help me out with a few of these.
Okay. The park amenity it's an ongoing yearly one that we have on there. There is a little bit on that one for Lazy Creek, but it's also going to be for John Denver Park, and there's a couple other little parks in there just for new benches, receptacles, trash receptacles, things like that we're upgrading from the older parks that we received from the county that we've been doing every year.
Okay, great. Thank you. Council members, anything else on community services? Hearing none, I think we're ready to move to the next one.
I think we're actually done.
We're done. All right. We made it to the finish line. All right. Well, council members, do we have anything else we wanted to share? I see Councilman Leesmeyer's in the queue.
I just had a question. I noticed that, generally speaking, this CIP packet is a lot thinner than it normally is. Is this just, we're just covering these projects? Or is there more to come with the CIP? Specifically, when I open up the one that's online right now, I think the fourth page in is like an organizational chart. So I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't more to the CIP than this.
Yeah, there is more to come. This is just the going through this workshop, but we'll put all this together plus the other sheets and tables and things like that. So,
okay.
Yeah, it'll become bigger.
Yeah, what we provided was a copy of the PowerPoint, a copy of those lists that we showed on the PowerPoint, and then the detailed sheets just for the projects that we're proposing for funding next fiscal year. But to Mr. Geronimo's point, we do have all the detailed worksheets for all of the projects, so that's what the council will receive as we wrap up the budget.
Yeah, I mean, it had the proposed, it projected all the money, the different buckets, and
Yes, absolutely.
what year it might happen if we project it out, sort of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak before we adjourn?
Yes, we do. Let's see. I think it's Cass and Klein.
Okay, good. Welcome.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be here, that the city's opened up. And I appreciate that all 5 of you are here. Earlier this morning, I emailed a letter to you, to the council, and to the city manager and the city attorney. It was about 11:30 this morning. And Mayor Pro Tem Sobek, I appreciate you getting back to me, acknowledging that you had received the letter. And Armando also acknowledged. I don't know if you've had a chance to read it. And kind of in line with what Mayor Pro Tem Sobek talked about today, wanting to hear from staff, the letter deals with a staff comment on the requirement of a project I'm representing on Bradley north of Newport. And staff has identified a grave concern with the safety of traffic doing full movement in and out of Newport Plaza, where Giovanni's is located. And staff is recommending, in their words, that a median be built. And so in our meeting yesterday, the virtual meeting with staff, I asked staff if this requirement was on the CIP, and much to my surprise, it wasn't. And it surprised me because staff had said that they had checked with PD, and PD shared the same grave concern for the life, health, safety. As a matter of fact, they talked about the fatality on Newport because of a painted median. So this morning when I woke up at 2:30 to look at the agenda to verify for myself that this project is not recommended on your CIP. Yet, as I explained in my letter, which is much longer than 3 minutes, it absolutely qualifies for priority 1. And matter of fact, what I've suggested is in an interim for the city to go out and place some temporary delineators, like as tall as these things here, like you would see that delineate a high occupancy vehicle lane. And then to go ahead and get this if there's an identified need. And again, understand, these are not my words. These are written words from your traffic engineer, from your city engineer, and spoken from the police department that this is an urgent thing. So I'm suggesting to the city council that if it's indeed that urgent, that you consider directing staff to place an interim condition improvement and then to move forward with the center median. I understand there's probably going to be quite a bit of pushback given what occurred when the access from Newport Road was cut off. But if it is, again, a life, health, safety issue, I think that greater concern needs to be given to that. So just for your consideration, and for those of you that have had a chance to read the letter, you've seen it, and if you haven't had the chance to read it, it's spelled out pretty detailed. If you have any questions, I'm sure you can ask your staff, and I'd be happy to talk with you more about it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Klein. Madam Clerk, any other speakers?
There are no other requests to speak.
Okay, and nothing emailed?
No.
All right, thank you very much. Council members, anything else? Our city manager, Villa.
So just want to recap. Can we put that slide?
IT, can we have the PowerPoint on slide 6, please?
Just want to highlight the fact that this CIP project year is a very aggressive project year. It's a $32 million funding request. The bulk of it all is for Holland Road, which will complete the project. So with this next fiscal year, we will have full funding for Holland Road, and we hope to be under construction pretty soon here. What's not included here is, as you know, we requested Congressman Calvert assistance in funding some of these other projects. And we did hear some good news about him supporting through the appropriation bill, Bradley Road Bridge, and also the widening of Scott Road all the way down to the city of Wildemar. So if we are successful in getting those grant funds, we will come back to you to amend the CIP plan, and that would actually put us at $42 million of a CIP project request. And in addition, we're very hopeful that at the federal level, they keep talking about an infrastructure bill that will allow more federal funding. And if that happens, then certainly the California Transportation Commission and the RCTC will be getting some funds. And we're hopeful that we can come back and again, successfully ask for some of the projects that we've outlined in the past, like the McCall Bridge and things like that. Our hope this next year and part of the following year is to be able to get as many projects as we can shovel ready, so that we can be in a good position to get the funding for these projects. So again, very aggressive CIP schedule. We've proven that we can do it. Last year, we actually implemented a $20+ million CIP list. So just wanted to highlight for the community and for you. And our hope is that if we are successful, we're going to come back and show you in the community how those funds are going to be allocated. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Villa, and that's really great news, and our fingers are crossed that the Appropriations Committee is going to recommend those funds that would come to those, the two projects you mentioned, the second one and the third one, Bradley Bridge and Scott Road. We wouldn't be changing what we're recommending in today's CIP contribution, because the contributions will stay the same, right? The 1.4 and the 2.9 stays the same because it's just a contribution towards a much larger total.
That's correct. The funding request for this will stay the same, but if you, for example, the Bradley Bridge, we have a gap of about $3.5 million that is called out as a future contribution, future years. But if we get the funding from the congressman, that would complete the funding, so we can actually speed up the construction of Bradley Bridge as early as next year.
But this 1.4 that we're approving still would stay
We still need that, yeah.
Stay in place.
We still need that.
That's what I was asking.
And do we want to show, can you show the slide that shows the Bradley Bridge, the details of it, the funding details of it?
There it is.
So if you look at the proposed budget, the financial plan for it, we would need $3.5 million future years, and that would actually complete the funding request, and we would actually come back and propose next fiscal year budget. But that would pretty much allow us to build the bridge in 22, 23, to begin the construction of that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
All right, council members, anything else? All right, we're going to go ahead and adjourn. It is 4:30 on the dot.